Hi Simon.
Hi.
Just based on what I heard there, happy birthday.
Thank you, appreciate it, yeah.
I just wondered if you could give us some insight into how your week unfolded and what your preparation has consisted of.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously the game the other day, following the game, the club made a decision. Had a conversation with Phil, Mark Bitcon, Phil CEO, just about that there's a change and, would I take care of the upcoming game against Liverpool and prepare the team as best I could. So yeah, hectic, plenty going on, but the communication was nice and clear, what was expected and what my role is in the coming days, and that's of course been really helpful.
And what is expected in terms of, is it just kind of bringing this group together at a tough time?
Yeah, of course. I think I think it's clear to see at the moment that it's a tough run of games coming off the back of a tough run of games. Another tough game coming up, an exciting one. So I think the role for me was to, organise a group of staff, organise the players to prepare and perform as well as we can in what's a really exciting game.
How have the players responded to Russell Martin's departure?
Yeah, well, actually the players have had a day off, which is fairly typical, and they stuck to their schedule that was put in place. So not had a lot of communication with the players as yet. So looking forward. But obviously, look, I've been in the club since the summer. I think they're a really good bunch of guys, really good bunch of professionals. So in the timescale I'll be working with them, it's I'm comfortable that they're a really good bunch of professionals and they'll get around their job in front of them because they're professionals.
I think it came up in the Arne Slot press conference this morning. It was mentioned that you like to play a back four. I just wondered how much you can realistically impact on a performance on a game with such a tight turnaround and such short preparation.
Yeah, I think the nature of the turnaround in game time, of course, presents its challenges from that perspective. But I think my job is to, like any coach up and down the country, is to assess what their next game is, assess the group that's available to play, and come up with a game plan which is most suitable, one that you believe in, and that's my job. And I've done that for a long time. Good experience in preparing teams and working with lots of different types of players in different ways. So I'm looking forward to preparing the team, and I'm confident we'll have a good go.
I guess one of the concerns was defensively and maybe the individual errors that were happening on a regular basis. Are you confident, based on what you know of the squad and what you've seen of them in your short time here, even as 21's boss, that you can tighten up on that immediately?
Yeah, I think obviously for myself it's using my experience and using the staff. And look, what I do have, I work at a club that's got an excellent infrastructure, so I've got great support around me. I've got some very good senior players within that group, and I think it's of course I've been reflecting and watching the games, and I will have my own idea on what I think is best for the group, but I'll work with them on that. I think communication's key in all aspects. So I think for me, working together with the players and establishing that very quickly, and of course I'm going to be looking at the strengths of the team. I'm going to be looking at the things and working with them on the things that we think can be better, and in a very short space of time that you've mentioned, doing some work which hopefully puts us in the best possible position to perform.
Obviously the process to find Russell Martin's replacement is ongoing. Would you like to be in the mix for that role?
No, I think it's been very clear to me that I'm a believer in staying present as best you can, and the present for me at the moment is preparing the team to play against Liverpool. I think the communication's been ongoing and excellent within the club to myself, and I think actually that the best thing I can do at this moment in time is just to prepare the team as best I can, and what falls out at the end of that will fall out. I've been in the game long enough to see this. I've been through change before at football clubs, so my only focus at the minute is supporting the players as best I can, and seeing what comes of that. But what I do have, I come to the club to work with the 21s team. I think we've seen this year already there's been some exciting talents that have come out of that group. And my role ultimately will always be to try and create that pathway and develop the under-21s players to come through and influence the first team and get some positive results. So that's my focus. That will remain my focus until I'm told otherwise.
What have you been told about the Fulham League game this weekend?
No, nothing at all. I am solely focusing on the Liverpool game, and I'm sure, once that one's out of the way, there, as I've said, the communication's been really clear, really respectful, and that will become clearer after the Liverpool game.
I should mention you've been in the game a long time, very experienced. Even with that experience, does a League Cup tie against Liverpool as the manager of Southampton, albeit on a temporary basis, is that really up there for you in terms of what you've experienced in your career?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we are working to prepare against one of the informed teams, arguably in the world, in Europe. So that speaks for itself. And for me, ultimately, I'd like to focus on the process. I think for me, if I become over emotional in any aspect as a coach, or start thinking and taking my eye off the ball about what's the immediate task in hand, where are the players at physically, mentally, emotionally, what's the opponent's strength, what's the opponent weakness, and I just stick to that process. But of course, what I would say is it's a great honour. I've worked at the club since the summer. I think it's got a great tradition. The fan base is super committed and loyal, and they'll be behind the players. So I think for me, concentrating on that as my focus is the right and professional thing for me to do, and anything else, I'm sure there's always a period of reflection after, and it will be a proud moment for me without any shadow of a doubt. And it's a great honour. It's a great honour to represent the club and guide them into such an important game.
Do you think the players can take a lot of confidence from the performance in the league against Liverpool earlier in the season? And based on what you said there, have you found any weaknesses in the Liverpool?
Yeah, that's a challenge, that one, isn't it? Yeah, of course. Look, I think when we analyse the game, in particular, we have, it wasn't too long ago that the first team played against Liverpool. So of course, there'll be aspects of that we'll want to retain, and we'll want to keep a footprint within that performance. But we're in a different moment right now, and I think we'll be aware of, we need to prepare in the most intelligent way possible and diligent way possible. So yeah, strengths from that game for sure, areas that could have been better, but they do say no plan survives first contact with the enemy. So but we'll be ready.
Just a final one, I know you mentioned that the guys are training, but have you got any players returning, and maybe some talk about Ramsdale coming back, or any fresh injuries that you're aware of?
No fresh injuries that I'm aware of. I think there'll be, as is normal in such a quick turnaround of games, there'll be things that are still being assessed, and that's an ongoing situation. So I'm sure over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, before Liverpool, post Liverpool, we'll hopefully get some news on them guys that might be close.
Thanks, Simon. Good luck.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Rob? Simon, you spent a lot of your career working in youth football with under-23s at Brighton, England under-19s. Do you think that's going to stand you in good stead working with a fairly young Saints team?
Yeah. I think all experiences are useful. I think I've had a very eclectic set of experiences in my career, both playing and coaching. I've worked at most levels of the game, in the pyramid in England and Scotland. So I think all of them experiences now I'll be drawing upon to use within this moment to help the players, and that is my focus. Of course, I have a passion about development of young football players. It's something that's in my heart, but equally in the times I've worked within the senior game, at Brighton, Stockport, Dundee, working at first team level, there's also a lot of experiences which I can draw upon there. And for me, it's about whether I'm working with a 16-year-old lad or a 35-year-old coming to the end of the career. It's about driving and supporting them in the best way possible. So I'll be drawing upon all of them experiences.
You've said already that there's been a lot of exciting talent in the academy that you've worked with. Already Saints brought in a couple of young players in the summer, like Ronnie Edwards. You've had Sam Amoyama or Tyler Dibling in the past. Also some fringe players like Ben Brereton Diaz. Are there any of them sort of that were on the fringes of Russell Martin's team in the forefront of your plans?
Yeah, my experience in development is about avoiding naming names and not creating pressure for young players that perhaps aren't quite ready for that. So in principle, yeah, we have got one or two players which I'm very optimistic about what the future may hold for them. But equally, there's a lot of variables within getting to the top of professional football. But yeah, I think we can be really optimistic about that. And the club are very progressive in terms of having their outlook to sign young talent, and also more importantly in some respects bring it through our own age groups. So I think we can be optimistic about that over the next 18 months, and of course everyone will be turning the screw on myself and the staff to make sure that we can deliver on that front.
Looking back a little bit further, you had one senior managerial position at Stockport. How did you find that first of all, and what did that sort of teach you about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, lots. I think again for me, I'm quite a process-driven person. Every scenario has its challenges. Some are easier than others. I think when you're a first-team manager, of course, you have a responsibility for the result. But at the risk of avoiding cliches, I think not pinning too much on what an outcome might be and avoiding the process, I think is really important as a coach to look at your process, to look at your work, and if them bits are right, my experience is you won't be far away from result. And that's my belief system here. So I think that experience helped me form my belief system, of supporting players and preparing a team to win games of football, because of course that's the nature of the industry we're in, winning games of football, and it's an amazing thing, winning games of football. But you also learn about yourself when perhaps you don't get the results that sometimes you deserve or may not deserve. So this will be another period of growth, selfishly for me, the same as the other periods in my career, and I think when you reflect upon that, it's about keep moving forwards. But I draw that back into the excitement about preparing a team to try and gain in the cup competition against great opposition. So I'm looking forward to that.
And just a final one from me, who's going to be joining you in the dugout tomorrow? Have you got a staff assembled, or is it just going to be the same as the...
Yeah, I think, there's as it stands now, obviously, Russ and Matt Gill have moved on, but the support staff, there's a good continuity at the club, and I think one of the advantages of working at a club like Southampton is, that the infrastructure is strong. The support for me is excellent, and I have a good relationship with all of the guys there. So, that's a real strength for the players. That can hopefully be as seamless as possible. So, there isn't too much change from that perspective.
Thank you. We'll move on for the section for 10:30 this evening. Start with you, Alfie.
Hi Simon, sorry, I know you said you don't name names, but just specifically, will Matty Everton be with you in the dugout and maybe Adam Lallana?
No, so my plan is obviously Adam's priority at the minute is supporting from a playing perspective. Of course, I'll be leaning on Adam's unbelievable experience within the game, but he's one of a pool of players that is available to be selected. So I think it's only right we allow him to concentrate on that. And Matty recently joined the club to be my assistant with the 21s, and as it stands, Matty will be preparing for the under-21s game against Sporting Lisbon. So, there'll be continuity of the staff that was supporting Russell before at this current time, and they've been super supportive with that. And again, I think it's important at this moment in time that there's not too much change for the players, and of course there's going to be tweaks and nuances with what we do. That's completely normal. But no, at the minute, Colin will be working with myself, Carl Martin, and there'll be little minimal change from that perspective.
Thank you. I think you've said it's an honour for yourself, clearly. It's a big game for the club, but it's a chance to get into the last four of a cup competition.
Absolutely.
The club hasn't won a major trophy for 50 years or whatever it is. I mean, it's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we deserve to be here. We deserve to be in this game. The fixture is an exciting one, and you're right. It can, of course, we're not in a great run of form, and hopefully this game can be a fixture which sparks a catalyst for change, and we earn that rub of the green. So yeah, it's an exciting game, and I think it's an opportunity ultimately. And I believe the next game of your career is always the biggest one. So this is our biggest one right now.
It's talking today about you might rotate heavily, particularly in defence, because of the amount of injuries and stuff they've got. They've obviously got a ridiculously big squad and brilliant young players as well. So can you take any sort of confidence or anything to target there, or is it a case of the guys who come in will be as good as they could be?
Yeah, I think I guess really that assessment will only be made when the team sheets finally come in. But I think the stature of the football club, whoever represents Liverpool, is we know it's going to be a stern task, tough task, and I remain open-minded about what that may look like.
You've already talked about communicating with the players to pick your 11, but what qualities will you be looking for in reaction to what's happened over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're dealing with people, and I'm fairly certain that the players will be hurting. They'll be hurting, but I'm also fairly certain that they'll be resilient and they'll be desperate to bounce back and bounce back well with a good performance and hopefully a good result. So, you know, of course, as I mentioned before, we're going to assess the preparation, and I'm going to make a decision to, you know, prepare the team in a certain way. What that is might still be up for slight debate. But you know, that's my immediate task. But I think making sure that we're all together is important, and I have no doubt about that. I've watched the lads work this year, and they care. You know, they're a group that are desperate to do well, and hopefully, you know, that I can help them do that, and that's my simple task really over the next 2 days.
Is that one of the biggest challenges that maybe, I don't know, I haven't spoken to them yet, but just anticipating that, you know, some of them will be disappointed about the fact that a manager who they've worked with for 18 months has gone? Yeah,
and of course, you know, Russell done a great job at the club, but I think we all come in and work in football. There is a brutal side to football, and there's a beautiful side to football, and I think, you know, the players that are in that dressing room there will understand, you know, the nature of the beast, and they'll be ready. So yeah, I'm sure there's been some hurt, and I'm sure, you know, as there should be when you're not winning games of football. It's, you know, it's a harder place to be than winning games of football in many respects. That's logical. But I maintain, I think we've got great professionals at the club, and, you know, as much as they'll be hurting, and it's a human aspect to it, that, you know, they've had success last year, but they'll also respect that change is the only constant in football, and we have to move forwards, and that's what we'll do.
Cheers. You've got quite a few players, the senior players dropped down with the 21s this season, playing Premier League 2 games and stuff like that. Can you kind of lean on those players, because you're not going to be a totally unfamiliar face to the mind?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's helpful, and again, come back to the infrastructure of a football club, working closely to the first team. You know, I have a lot of relationships with the first team lads in general, and I think these relationships are useful, certainly given the current circumstances. And of course, that'll be something I lean on. But the group as a whole, a good group, you know. So yeah, that is definitely something that I've thought about, and, you know, but equally, it's about making sure that, you know, there's a line in the sand in some respects now, and we work together as a team, you know.
Either, is it?
No.
Because you're in the dugout of Cardiff. Is that the experience you can lean on as well?
Yeah, of course. You know, I feel again, I think I've had a really eclectic set of experiences as a football person, if you like, and, you know, I'm focused about what the task is. Yeah, I'd be a lie if I said I'm not human, and you know, there are nerves at play, which is completely normal, and them things I've learned over time have helped me focus my mind on the task. So, and the players will be the same. You know, as I said, we're dealing with humans, we're not dealing with robots. And I think for me, connections and relationships in any walk of life are important. And, you know, I've got a lot of good connections with the first team group, and hopefully that stands us in good stead.
Speaking about giving young players a chance to Liverpool, you work with the 21s every single day. Is there kind of how do you balance that temptation with some of those players who you might think a cup game is a perfect chance for them, but then also a lot of senior players, a massive senior squad, and balance maybe wanting to give a player a chance in this game?
Sorry, could you repeat that one for me?
If you've got those players in the 21s you work with a lot and stuff, and
yeah,
you're thinking in the back of your mind, they may be the next one who's ready for a chance. I'm sure balance doing that, and then also you've got the pressures of having a big senior squad to work with.
Yeah, no, I think, look, you know, in any walk of life, the opportunity has to be ready and right and deserved. So there'll be no principle change there. If a player was good enough and I felt they were going to help us win, they play, whether they were 16 or 30, you know. But I think that's completely normal. That's the nature of first team football. So yeah, it's business as normal from that point. You know, we'll select a squad and team that's mentally and physically ready to go and perform for the identity of this football club.